In this full review, we'll tell you all you need to know about the recent Audi Q7 facelift in exterior, interior and the driving experience here on Autogefühl with Thomas, and we'll also have a special focus here today on the new Q7 PHEV. So join us there in full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go! In the front, the Audi Q7 facelift features this new front grille, bigger than before and more in line also with the Audi Q8, for example. Looks stronger now than the S-line, adds those sportier contrast, especially in the lower part, also with the black frame around here. Then new headlamps, horizontally drawn. They start with LED, optional the matrix LED, also for more high beam functions. And this one here is the new laser light, which is now also available for the Q7. You can see it with the blue accentuations here, and then you have even more high beam performance. The length of the Q7 is 5 meters 06, 16 foot 6 or 199 inches, and comes standard with a steel suspension, optional also what we have in here, the air suspension. That one then varies 9 centimeters overall, so 6 centimeters up in the off-road mode, 3 centimeters down when you drive faster on the Autobahn. And it starts actually with 18-inch wheels, goes up to 22-inch, 19 with this S-line, and then this one is optional 21-inch, and that looks pretty amazing. Not the biggest size. What would be my tip? Yeah, maybe 19 or 20, because then you have a little bit more comfort than with those, but they will still look pretty nice. The S-line badge right there, that also means those sporty contrast accentuations. You've maybe also seen our studio episode or the first driving review with AJ, where we had different trim. You can also check that out later, then you can see some more variations here with the black contrasting mirrors right there. Other than that, the Q7 features this special design line here above the door handles, and they really touched a lot with this facelift. So unusual, big visual changes. You can see it in the front definitely, but also here in the side profile. It looks more SUV-ish than before. However, you can see that the S-line here has those wheel arches painted in the vehicle color. If you want it more off-roadish, you don't go for the S-line. Then you also have a contrast around the wheel arches. However, they are then also painted, but not in the vehicle color, but more in this black or dark gray scheme. Yeah, and what else? Of course, this really upright window frame that gives you a lot of space on the interior. That's the main thing about the Q7. And then, interesting for the PHEV is also, there is no rear axle steering available and no anti-roll control, which is usually an option in a suspension package. But here, due to packaging reason, not available for the PHEV. In the rear, there's a new modern signature here for the tail lamps. That looks really space style, so pretty cool. And then also this bright strip that all goes around the vehicle. Overall, it looks somewhat bulky in the rear still, but the reason again is that you still have enough of luggage space on the interior. If you want it sporty from the look, then there is the Q8, which has some compromise then on the interior space. In the lower part, then again, the black contrast, also all in glossy paint with the S-line, and those are the definition of fake exhaust. And just two things where you can see it's a PHEV, 60 TFSI E. That's the only letter indication that this one here is the somewhat electrified version. And the second sign you can see is this E in the number plate, at least in Germany. It depends from country to country if you can see it also on the number plate. So here you can. And here you can charge the 17.3 kilowatt hour battery with a 7.4 kilowatt AC charger. You can also put this one right in here, that doesn't fly around. So it does not have a DC charger, but I mean, considering the battery size, this is also not really needed. So after a couple of hours, it will be full. And even if you just use a normal household plug overnight, this will also be full once again. The promised range, by the way, here for the Q7, also for most of the other PHEV models at Audi, is between 40 and 50 kilometers. That's about, just some 35 miles of the approximate pure electric range. Then you can decide if you want to just use always the pure electric range, then drive with the combustion engine, or if you rather want to be driving in this hybrid mode and use both at the same time. It depends on your driving profile and also what you want. So Audi, what do they do for their new plug-in hybrid models? In the Q5 and in the A7, they use a 2-liter 4-cylinder petrol engine to combine it with this electric drivetrain. In the A8 and in the Q7, like here, well, you can't see much from that in the front here. This one here is the 3-liter 6-cylinder petrol engine, the 3-liter TFSI. That's very interesting, this strategy, and there are 2 horsepower outputs available actually. In the 55 TFSI, that's 375 horsepower, or in the 60 TFSI, that's 450 horsepower. Each is the total system horsepower output, so pretty strong actually, and we'll be really excited how this one will be driving. And what's also interesting is when you have a 2-liter 4-cylinder at Audi and you have the quattro all-wheel drive, then you have this quattro ultra front plus rear on demand. But here then, when you have the 3-liter 6-cylinder engines, this is a classic quattro 40-60 base distribution, so rear wheel biased all-wheel drive. Well, to me, the true all-wheel drive, yes, the new one might be a little bit more efficient or so, but this one, of course, will give you a little bit more rear wheel bias. And what they also do with their PHEV models, whereas, for example, at Volvo, they make it that the rear axle is being driven by the electric motor and then the front axle by the combustion engine. Here, they remain the classic setup. It's basically that there's the combustion engine, then the electric motor, and then comes the transmission, and everything combined is sent then to the wheels. So the characteristic of the all-wheel drive is not influenced here by this PHEV edition. Now to the interior. First of all, doors closing sound. Oh, amazing. This is a really very solid door closing sound. And you can see, by the way, the door here is really low, so that also protects the inside. Also those beautiful S-line badges from dirt. Then there's Alcantara at the inside of the doors. Here you can get different decor elements. Reasonable door pockets. There you can also open the normal fuel cap, and also right here the trunk. Bang & Olufsen sound system. Yeah, it has a really nice sound, tested it before, definitely. And the S-line also more sporty accentuations. For example, here the perforated side of the steering wheel, animal skin seat here in this case. But the Q7 can also be bought with fabric seats as base, at least in Europe. And there's also in the normal S-line, there would also be an Alcantara insert on the middle available. And there's also a sport seat available without the integrated head restraint. That is already a little bit sportier, but not as sporty as this one. So you go base seat, more open, then sport seat, little sportier with separate head restraint, and then this one here, the S sport seat with integrated head restraint. So this looks the sportiest, but I can tell you with this, visually attractive quilting on the inside and the sportiest form of the seat, it's to me at least not the best comfort then. So I would rather tell you to save some money and go for base style seats or the base sport seat if you want the most comfort. However, for a sport seat, it's still decently comfortable because you sit upright, you have a lot of space in here. This platform here of the VW Touareg, Porsche Cayenne and the Audi Q7, they all share the same platform, which has this absolutely even entry sill here. This somehow feels cool, it doesn't go up or down, it's just all flat here to the bottom. That's just, a very special feeling when sitting here on the interior. You feel, open and spacious. Headroom-wise, there's no panoramic roof in here. In this car, there's one optional available, but still plenty of headroom. 1.86 or 6'1". Steering wheel control always starts manual. Most of the cars also optionally available in electric style, but this one already does a good job. And yeah, I mean, the general seating position in the space you have here is really, really cool and definitely more comfortable than in the big sedans. That's also the reason why people opt for the SUVs. Welcome to this interior. A very clean setup here, definitely horizontal stress right there. Yeah, a lot of black piano lacquer is being used. Like this quattro accentuation, this will also be illuminated, for example, but I would like to have something different than this black all over the place because it collects fingerprints and also a lot of dust and so on. But the overall design is pretty cool. Everything is touch-based, at least in this middle part. So let me start with the, some basic info. In some markets, or also in Europe, it will still be available with analog instruments. This Q7, optional full virtual cockpit right there. And can we have some details from that, Jones? I think that works, right? Yeah. So then here, you see the range is at the moment also predicted with 50 kilometers, 52 kilometers. That's actually pretty decent. And then you can also change the view right here, depending on what you want to have. So you're pretty flexible as for this virtual cockpit. And you can also have this GPS view right here. So that's pretty cool and very helpful indeed. Then, one more look at the steering wheel with this single frame grille in the logo. Left side, I controlled the digital instruments right there. That's coming pretty handy. And on the right side, you can control the volume, for example, for this cool sound system. Then we take a look at the right infotainment unit. Some markets will start in the upper part with 8.8 inch, small screen. This one is the 10.1 inch. Again, depending on trim or the market, it will also be standard. And the lower part will be 8.6 inch always. And they somehow also play together, this whole unit. So here everything with a touch, no control node or something. This can be a problem when controlling it while driving, for example. Then again, it looks fancy and is also quite intuitive to use. That's good. Here with the satellite view, if you have the basic view, not the satellite view, it will also be a little bit more responsive. Then you have this home menu, but here I have to really press it in, and I always recommend to go to the display settings here, then go to the MMI, and then deactivate this touchscreen feedback. Here, this haptic feedback for touch input. There we go. So, and then you see the difference? I can just click like with a smartphone. And I mean, we are all used to smartphones. Why do you have to bang, 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 bang on the touchscreen? It's so much, easier just to use it with easy click. Then there will be Apple CarPlay, also wirelessly available. Alternatively, it also works with Android Auto, but not wireless yet. This menu structure is pretty clean and easy to learn. That's cool. And you can also use this new voice input. There's no function like with Hey Audi yet, but you can use the a knob on the steering wheel.
If you wish to use the online speech recognition service as well,
accept.
Please accept the license agreement.
Please accept the license agreement, yes. Okay, that should do it. Now again. Set temperature to 23 degrees.
I'll increase the temperature to 23 degrees.
So that's possible, for example. So that worked. Or you can also use the GPS input. And talking about GPS input, usually the lower part here is available for the temperature. You can also slide it like this. That's maybe helpful also while driving or clicking it. And also a heated steering wheel is optionally available. But when you have the address input there, I mean, you can use it with the voice input, but you can also do it like this. And then the lower pad, for example, either becomes a keyboard where you can type it in, or then, write, and not only with letters, but you can directly write, for example, Berlin. B-E-R. That's funny. So, and then it's also put in there. And no destination. He was searching along the route. I mean, because there's a route already planned in, they have to cancel the route first. And then, the city would be recognized. But you see, this actually works pretty nicely. And then you also have this EV driving mode. So this favors the EV driving, or you can switch it to the hybrid driving, what I explained to you earlier. And you can also go into the hold mode. If you, for example, there will be some cities maybe where say, oh, only electric vehicles can pass here. All others, you shall not pass. Then you can use this hold mode. Other than that, it's more efficient to leave it in the auto. Or if you say, I want to drive all electric with my short commuting way, then you leave it in this mode. We will try around a little bit with that when we drive the car very soon. And then when we finish up the interior, when I go a little bit further down, this classic shifting lever that all works the very same way. Then you have the cup holders, which are high class and adaptive also. And then there's this armrest. You can slide it forward a little bit. And when you put it up, then there's an inductive charging pad available and 2 classic USB-A devices for your smartphones. And the head-up display, clear to read, and the speed, the allowed speed, assistant system info, and also some GPS info, so that's always a good option. Also the rear features here the Alcantara at the inside of the door in the S-Line, that's beautifully done. Then we also have for the kids, here this manual sunshade, like this. Oh, yeah, there we go. And awesome build quality everywhere, what you touch and see and feel. They're really on top of the game here with the Q7, especially even more with the facelift. Then a lot of space at the back of the interior. And even here in the PHEV version, there's no compromise on the back seating. In this normal back bench, there's no 7-seater option available here for the PHEV. That's not possible, but I mean, this will do just fine. You can get inside as well, and see here I have plenty of legroom left when I would be driving even here, and also with a more voluminous S Sport seat. Then you're really flexible because you can slide the bench forward and backward, and that's actually possible for each individual seat. So you can also very well sit in the rear, one of the very few cars where you can sit as a tall adult in the middle seat perfectly. You can also just put this middle seat forward then. This is all possible to be flexible in, trunk length and the space you have here in the front available. Isofix here at the outside is also nicely covered as for that. And I mean, there's of course this transmission channel here, yes, but you can still sit pretty decently here. Also have an additional climate control in lower part, 2 12-volt power supplies, and yeah, headroom is actually absolutely plentiful. And also the back part of the seats, I'll mention that too. You can put it a little bit straighter or more backwards if you want to go in a relaxing sleeping position. And this also goes a very, very wide way, and this would also be the possibility to flip the seats directly from here completely. Well, we have darker windows here in the rear area, therefore we cannot see it that well, but I can tell you at the moment the top cover of the trunk is closed, and when I open the hatch right here, the cover automatically raises up like here, and when I close it again, it goes down. That's a really great, comfortable function, definitely. When you have the air suspension, you can also lower the car a little bit here, that you have a lower loading niveau, so that's also handy and pretty good in square dimensions. This is the trunk split, and there are actually 2 limitations here for the PHEV. One, there's no lower ground, so you cannot put anything up here. Usually you could put this one up, and again there's no 7-seater option available. And the second limitation is this one here. So there's like an additional box for the AC charger, so you're a little bit more limited in the space in the width right there. But still, I mean, even at this point right there, it's not exactly 1.20 meters, but it's definitely more than 1 meter in width right here, and in the upper part, even a little bit more. So still, you can get along with that very well. And the length of the trunk here is 1.14 meters. The only thing that I don't like that much is when you have to flip the seats, you have to go all the way around. Then you have to, release them from here, and you have to do it individually. That's then the downside of this, bench setup like this. So there you can also see the difference. And the other possibility, as I said earlier, is that you can also push the bench forward. Then you could have a little bit longer trunk without flipping the seats actually. But if we have them flipped to the front seats, as we would be driving as tall people with Thomas and Jonas, that's then already about 2 meters. So overall, a very, very versatile car. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the Q7 PHEV, TFSI, how they call it now, here in the stronger horsepower version. And we start all electric. That's of course cool when you're in the city and so on, and everything is calm and silent and so on. That's definitely pretty helpful. And yeah, definitely some things I enjoy most about driving those PHEVs, and of course the pure battery electric vehicles and the BEVs. Yeah, and I mean, the car is about 300 to 400 kilograms heavier than normal Q7 with the 3-liter TFSI turbo petrol engine, so you have to bear that in mind. However, this electric drive always transports some kinds of, first of all, tranquility, because it's silent, and also of, lightness again, because you hear nothing. When you hit the throttle, there's this electric drive, which does feel different from the combustion drive. The promised range is 640 kilometers on the combustion engine and about 50 kilometers on the pure electric drive. That would be about 400 miles combustion engine and about 30 miles as for the pure electric power. So overall, I think you can very well live with it. And the total system output here, with this 60 TFSI E version giving us 450 horsepower. That's horsepower wise, like SQ7 alike. So really a lot of power, definitely very interesting. And you can also at the moment just drive pure electric. That's cool, and especially if you have the chance to recharge it frequently. And the vehicle here, also with the air suspension, even without, is a very calm one. You sit upright, have this comfortable seating position. You have a great noise insulation, so it's very, very silent in here, and it will also be the case at higher speeds. And this always fits somehow, this premium, elaborate feeling fits to an electric drive, because at the moment here, especially in this car, I don't need any noise or something, Then, especially here when stop and go, then it makes sense to have the electric drive once more, because the electric motor doesn't care if it's now running or not. It's either 0 or 1, it's on or off, and there's no special friction, doesn't need to preheat or something. That's all good. And so we can really use the electric drive. You don't have the biggest boost from the electric drive here. At some points you feel more resistance in the in the throttle, and then it would turn over to the hybrid drive, also with using the combustion engine. I felt that recently in the Mercedes GLE PHEV, that was a diesel PHEV and with a quite big battery actually, that this one was giving me more boost just from the electric drive. That was also, pretty interesting. So let's now see on the motorway what happens when I push the throttle all the way through. I guess the combustion engine gets activated. Yeah, and that's the case. And now the thing is, that's not a clever thing to do. Well, on the one hand, because you have the PHEV, the first boost is covered by the electric drive. But then, of course, the combustion engine is being activated for the very first time, maybe, and is already now on higher RPMs. There are some protection measurements that it's not running at like a peak RPM or something to prevent some damages, but still, I think it's not the best thing to do. But they have this function here in, because for, let's say, there's likely lane change and I really need to get on before another car is there or something, then for safety reasons, they offer this automatic boost that the combustion engine joins the electric drivetrain. If you like a situation like this, you're just rolling behind this boat there. For example, set the cruise control like this, and there's also adaptive cruise control in here. And you're just rolling, don't need too much power, additional power. Then you can also use the EV mode on the motorway. Cars just rolling or coasting, and that's also fine for the EV mode then, and then you can also be actually quite efficient. However, yes, a combustion engine is more efficient on the motorway, because the best efficiency point for a combustion engine would be about 90 kilometers an hour. So actually the car is in the hybrid mode now. So yeah, I can also, just when I use this lower button, switch between EV and hybrid. And here now in the hybrid mode, now I can see those yellow symbols there in the dashboard. And now we are running on the combustion engine. Now again on the EV, because we're rolling, speed's been reduced. So it switches then constantly when you are in this hybrid mode, depending on the situation. I told you earlier, this car does have some performance from the combined power then. So as soon as this small construction site is over, I'll accelerate it out. First of all, again, also in the motorway, I mean, we're at 80 kilometers an hour, and that's so super silent and relaxing in here. That's just what I love about this vehicle. It's, yeah, so relaxing. You've seen here the lane keeping assist was a little bit irritating when being here in this construction site. So I had to counter steer then for a while. So as long as the white lines are all good and all fine, that's nice, that's good. But then, you know, those are some special situations here, definitely. So this will be over soon, but overall the car is good to handle. I mean, although it's not a small vehicle, you have a good overall visibility. The windows are pretty much upright. You can see where the car is ending. So it is one of the cars where you, well, there are smaller cars which are not that easy to control, you know. So it always depends. Do I miss the all-wheel steering, which is not available for the, well, the rear axle steering, which is not available for the PHEV? Yeah, on the motorway it doesn't play such a role, but I do somehow miss it when, you know, driving around in the city and so on. The combustion engine, maybe I'm not sure if you can pick it up on camera. Now it actually is running, but it's also so well insulated from the cabin, you also don't hear it that much. So pretty much feels like driving a normal Q7, so there's not a big difference. It will more play a role if you in your country have special subsidies from the government, tax benefits or something for the PHEV, then it makes sense financially. And manufacturers, especially in Europe, try to price those PHEVs very well, because they know when they exceed the fleet overall, the fleet CO2 output, they have to pay fees or fines to even that out. And when they produce PHEVs, they can actually even that out pretty much. So it does also pay off for the manufacturers to offer those at a rather attractive price. It's also a very interesting aspect. So what I want to show you here, go to the right lane here now, because I'll show you the blind spot monitor when the car is appearing right here. Then it, okay, let's see about that. So there should be the blind spot monitor appearing, but it seems that it's not activated. Driver assist, basic, maximum. Ah, there it is. Live on Autogefühl, guys. There we have the blind spot monitor, and when I also used the turning indicator, then it's also flashing actually to give me an additional warning. And now there's also unlimited speed, so we can use actually, for example, the sport mode, dynamic. Then the shifting is also according to that, and we have the maximum power. Oh, there's a new GLE coming. No, sorry, look different. It was a new X class. They look pretty similar from the front. Interesting. Now let's accelerate it out. kilometers. Wow. So what that was 80 kilometers an hour to 160, and pretty powerful. And what I felt is we got first some electric punch, then more or less the combustion engine took it all over, and that's pretty impressive. So indeed this can also be an alternative to like an SQ7, to a performance model, which especially, you know, think about the European new diesel regulations, where they limit the, you know, output that can come to the filter. And yeah, they were struggling recently. They're using now some software updates, but the latest performance diesel models were all not performing that well. And so this PHEV model could indeed be a good alternative to that. Yeah, at the same time, mostly you maybe don't want to force it that much, and then you can keep it, just rolling, go to the comfort mode again, and then, for example, also use the recuperation. So we had some rolling, we also had some acceleration. We have a fuel consumption of 5 liters in 1 kilometers now and 22.7 kilowatt hours in 1 kilometers. That's similar to an e-tron, but we can also reset it and set the cruise control and see what about that then, how that one plays out. It's always really hard to measure the exact fuel or energy consumption of a PHEV, or because you never know to which extent are you recharging the car when I'm driving it pure on a combustion engine. So there's so many variables. Interesting, by the way, here they have a GPS route set, and I was wondering, didn't check it too much, on which route we really were, and the car with the predictive cruise control was actually somewhat warning me, because it was reducing the speed and at the same time showing me, you have to get off onto the right now. And this, the signalizing that the car is reducing speed a little bit. I think, wait a minute, I think the car wants to tell me something. And indeed, that was the case. Tell me, look at the GPS. We want to go off the right. That's pretty cool. It's also working in front of roundabouts, for example, that the speed is being reduced. That's then the highest build trim of this adaptive cruise control, and a pretty helpful feature, and it can also save some more fuel. So getting here on the motorway, just for the next exit, and here again setting the cruise control after this car. So it really varies from the variables what you can consume or not, but for this size, equal to the Audi e-tron, for the weight it has to be moved, something 20 kilowatt hours per 1 kilometers plus is definitely realistic. And when you use a lot of this electric energy, then the fuel consumption will be all low. That's also no wonder. However, if you just use the petrol engine here, when let's say the battery is depleted or something, then usually for this size of a car we're rather at 2-digit figures on liters on 1 kilometers. But it always depends on how you drive the car. If you just drive it cruise control or something, and we have the standard quattro all-wheel drive here, that means we do have a rear wheel bias. Now you're not racing with this car anyway, so does it make such a role? Then again, you can say that a 2-liter 4-cylinder would be maybe undersized for this car and would not really help with the fuel consumption. Yeah, so you can argue that definitely. Here at slower speeds, it feels a little bit more agile when I would have the rear axle steering. But then again, it is a feature you can live without. If you want to drive in narrow city streets, then it's maybe also not the right car anyway. But it's definitely a fancy feature I do like when driving a Q7, definitely. Other than that, the steering is quite direct, and although it's set on the comfort tone, it's fun to do some slalom here with the Q7. There's a good steering feel, good steering input as well, and the handling is fantastic. I mean, we have a great suspension from this air suspension, a great comfort from the air suspension. In the auto mode, really picks everything itself. In the dynamic mode, the car set a little bit lower. Now I get more stiffer feedback, so that's less comfort then, but more connection to the road. So you can pick that how you would like to have it. Definitely cool. And off-road would also be possible. Then raising it up, but that doesn't increase the comfort, by the way. So if you have because there's like positive and negative travel always, and you need both to have a good comfort. But definitely interesting. I was just letting it roll, and we have about 22 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers again. That's a realistic electric vehicle fuel consumption. And if you think about having like a 17 kilowatt hour battery in here, then if you keep it rather steady, probably you can even exceed the stated range figures. Not everything of that capacity of the battery is a net value. You have to deduct a little bit from that. But still, I think that's you can definitely live with that. And The real fuel consumption we could only measure when all the battery is being drained. We could try to do that, but we also want to, don't just want to do that for environmental reasons, of course. And we can only do it maybe when we have like the car is empty already, or we have like a test ride over a couple of days or something, or maybe a week or so. But I mean, we had this engine here so far, if you want to check out a single review of that. The driving feeling, by the way, did not change much in the facelift. However, you have a somewhat different interior feeling because of this new setup. So that's now just a little more modern, a little bit more elaborate. And that this one is a fantastic car to drive. Definitely among the best SUVs. Has a good agile feeling, still a good comfort, and yeah, I can just imagine a long road trip also with this vehicle, no problem at all. And so many situations where you can just drive pure electric and still can be actually quite efficient. So at the moment, yeah, I mean, we've been driving 20 kilometers and the range dropped 20 kilometers from 50 to 30. So that's definitely a realistic value. And I just enjoy driving the Q7 all electric. Again, the biggest difference I feel from this one to the GLE, of course it has a different styling feeling, so to say, but the GLE has the way better battery, so it's like double the size and also double the range. So that's a big difference. And this is what I meant here. When I want a real punch from this car, I need the combustion engine. The electric drive is not for that. Yeah, Jonas is a little bit sick today, so maybe have some best wishes for Jonas in the comments, then he will get well in no time. So with the GLE you can have an all-electric punch because you have more battery capacity available, and so they set it up in that way. And here they set up the car in a way that even if you are in the pure EV mode, the combustion engine sets in at the point. We can try it again, switch to the pure EV mode and see how the acceleration turns out. And I'm not try to hammer it all the way through directly. I say let's just test. Yeah, I see it comes, and then and then there's like a really like a resistance in the throttle. And when I push through that, then the combustion engine turns on. So the all-electric drive more for rolling, coasting, driving slowly, but no real acceleration possible. In a GLE PHEV, again, it was possible to have a real good traffic light acceleration situations or something just with the electric drive. So depends definitely on the user profile what you want to have. Both cars are very interesting to drive, definitely, and also offering you sportiness and comfort at the same time. The GLE is more set a little bit more on comfort, and this one here is actually already quite sporty. And do I feel the additional weight? It's hard to say. I mean, this car is heavy anyway, so there's not much difference in there. I think driving-wise you do feel a difference when you have the rear axle steering or not. Yes. If there's no more weight or not, I don't know. As I said initially, it also feels so silent and refined in here that the electric drivetrain also makes you relax a little bit more. Maybe even that brings down the fuel consumption a little bit. That would also be a funny finding for sure, So definitely a great ride here. And so for whom is this PHEV? I think, when you have this profile to use that, like, commuting to work in a short way during the week, and then on the weekends you do longer trips or something, that can make sense. And the benefits or tax benefits can also, of course, play a role. In Germany recently, when you have this like as a company car and then you also use it privately, then 0.5% instead of 1% taxation per month for the private use. And especially in cars which are pretty expensive, this can make a massive difference per month. So then it can also be, so to say, a diesel alternative. And you have to think about, there's always the recuperation process. Now I'm lifting my foot off the throttle, we're in the pure EV mode again, and either the car is rolling or you have the recuperation process. Most of the braking, here by the way, the shifting pedals are not set up to change the recuperation, like in the GLE. It's really on the different gears you have. So that's also very interesting. So in this case, it doesn't play any role, when I'm in the EV mode. So just when I'm using the brakes, there is recuperation, and that's also fine by me. This car really just drives like a normal combustion engine car, which is also okay. The electric vehicles with this one pedal driving feeling, they give you something else as for the feedback they deliver. But here you can be sure that when you use the brakes, there's also recuperation being used, and that when you need even more braking power, then also the real brakes are being applied. But you can just let the car take care of everything. There are also those, say car details, for example. See how the car's being tilted at the moment. Charging efficiency. By the way, there's also this e-tron mode. Yeah, there we go back there again. There's also the preconditioning for the climate available. That's actually also pretty cool. So like that. So that's also, when you think about the price, it's like an inbuilt independent heating system. So, and usually you also have to pay extra for that. I can just stress again that I really enjoy the drive right here in this PHEV, but most of the time really because I'm using the electric drive only, and there are a few situations where you really need to accelerate out hard, and then you use also the combustion engine. Most of this tour we've been doing right now, it's just done pure electric. And here again I see how the car set and rolling. However, now the car knows map data wise that there's actually next village coming, and then the car also suggests to reduce the speed a little bit. So this really very well works together with the predictive efficiency assist they offer here for their ACC systems. More so when you have set a route and the cruise control, that would be the perfect setup for that. And a crystal clear view through this panoramic windshield. We've been driving a lot of sporty SUVs or those SUV coupes, and of course they limit you in a way then. The speed has been reduced just a little bit in this corner, even not hitting anything of throttle. Now I'm out of the corner, the car is picking up the speed now once again. This is pretty cool, and this is some kind of autonomous driving where you still steer, you know what I mean? So really all the situations are being taken care of. As for braking, accelerating, you just steer yourself. You could say semi-autonomous driving if that would exist. When we stick to the term, there's just something as semi-automated driving, but not semi-autonomous, because autonomous is like it's a 0 or 1 term. Either something is autonomous or not. But you can do it half automated. Maybe that's grammar Nazi, I don't know. But I found it very interesting because I talked about with the autonomous driving engineer about that, and it's like, that makes sense. You were always saying semi-autonomous, but maybe stick it right as it's supposed to be. Now setting this mentioned cruise control once again, and just also relaxed. And if I would now turn out, look, parts of the sound system here from this Bang & Olufsen sound system, would really like to turn on the music here now, full scale. There's always something to enjoy. Here now again, did not hit the brakes. Yeah, maybe that's a little bit slow then from this efficiency control, but still something really useful. And on the motorway I really realized, when you're not paying so much attention, when the car is decelerating on its own, then oh wait, I forgot to take an exit or something. This can also be pretty helpful. So everything we can say about driving this car is really excellent. Energy consumption went about 22 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers, which is again comparable to an e-tron. It's not super low, but it's also a heavy car definitely. fuel consumption, we did hardly use anything, you know, so that's the thing. But we're also more here to do deliver you the electric driving experience. And if this can be a use case for you, please set it in the comments. Would you go for PHEV and why? Really would like to hear your feedback on that. And now to our conclusion for today with the Audi Q7 facelift and the special focus on the Q7 PHEV. First of all, in the exterior styling, this facelift brings more strength to the whole car and, well, not maybe in the S-line, but in the other version it looks more SUV, more off-roadish and less as a van maybe as before. In the S-line then, more sporty accentuations. It also depends on which size of the wheels you pick, of course. But definitely here also with the painted wheel arches then a sportier style. And a nice contrast here with the black pack as well, so that fits very well to this white color. On the interior, high build quality as we used to. Now with those infotainment system upgrades makes it a modern car. There's no interior differentiation as for the infotainment now anymore between Q7 and Q8. Yeah, you can argue with the MMI knob before you could control stuff better while driving. However, the menu structure is pretty easy, so you can find the things pretty fast, and that's also good. And also with the upgraded voice input, that helps. Overall, I get along with the system pretty well, I have to say. Good comfort, also great riding comfort. And this one is, although it's a pretty heavy car, even heavier as a PHEV, still it feels somehow easy and agile to drive. And the thing is, with this power here, you maybe saw the small clip from the action cam from the acceleration 0 to 60 kilometers an hour. And that was in, you know, heavy rain. Still, this all-wheel drive was managing that very well. Also good to has an advantage to have the classic all-wheel drive 46% base distribution, then adapting in just a little bit. Together with the big 3-liter 6-cylinder engine, I think that's a good mix overall. Yeah, I mean, when they could put a bigger battery in there, you can have an even higher electric range. The Mercedes GLE is a good example for that, with a double the size of the battery and also double the range. Here about 50 kilometers or 30 miles, it is indeed realistic. And you don't have the real electric punch, the pure electric one. That's not how this car is laid out, which you would have in the GLE then, with a pure electric punch, from the traffic light and maybe some gaps you want to fill in there. But then again, most of the time I could still drive all electric, because in the normal traffic situations, you don't have so many situations where you like hammer it all the way through, even not in Germany. So you can use the electric drivetrain quite a lot, especially if you're commuting short ways or for inner city drives, that you can reduce emissions locally. And you always have the recuperation possibility that even when the battery is depleted, you can still lower the fuel consumption by using the recuperation. Then again, something from the battery, especially for the first few meters and so on. So this can be useful if it fits to your driving profile. And overall, definitely a very interesting drive here today. What's your take on that one here, the Q7 PHEV? And of course, it might even be an alternative to the, especially when you use the hybrid mode, to the powerful alternatives, because that was a really strong acceleration we had here in this combination with the total system output. Thanks so much for tuning in today, and also tune into more videos here of the Q7 facelift or maybe the Q8. We will also link them in the video description. See you there.